The valiant men of USS Flier, we remember them. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds, in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
Attention, every honor guard, perform your duty. Surface, surface, surface.
Now we've had a time to remember and a time to have closure with our family members and those that were lost on the Flyer. We'd like to take a minute now just to talk about those that did survive. The day would not be complete if we did not say something about the 8 men who survived the sinking of the boat. No, though none of them are with us anymore, I know they carried the memory of the Flyer and their lost shipmates with them up to the time of their own deaths. I'd like to read the names of the 8 men who survived the sinking of the boat as a way of including them in today's important ceremony. The Flyer's survivors included Commander John Crowley, Motor Machinist Mate 3rd Class Earl Bumgart, Quartermaster 3rd Class James Della Russo, Chief Radio Technician Arthur Howell, Ensign Alvin Jacobson, Lieutenant James Liddell, Motor Machinist Mate 3rd Class Wesley Miller, and Fire Controlman 2nd Class Donald Tremaine. At this time, we're going to ask Nelson Jacobson to help us close with a benediction.
On behalf of all the survivor families, we're extremely grateful that everyone could join us here today for this sacred and special time. We'd like to recognize the efforts of everyone who contributed in making this happen. The survivors honored their duty to seek out truth and knowledge about where the Flyer was resting. and so many countless others put their time, talent, and treasure to the effort of finding the flyer, which led us here today. And therefore, on this day, where we join together to remember the crew of the flyer, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and give you peace, now and forever. Amen.
Now on deck, single all lines. Start main engines 3 and 4.
My name is Warren Fletcher. I'm a Canadian diver. We were involved in the discovery of the Flyer. My father and I were actually the two who were the first to dive the Flyer, and as far as I know, we're the only ones that have actually gotten to dive the wreck. It was a really rewarding experience being involved with the discovery. We got to work with Steve Jacobson, who is the son of one of the survivors of the Flyer, and it's just such an incredible story, the story of the survivor, just the will to survive and the bravery of the fellows that that served on the Flyer and that swam for so many hours just to be kind of lost in enemy territory. And it's really amazing to think that those guys could survive and actually make it back to America without being captured. And just a really great experience getting to be involved in such an amazing story. The Flyer was lost in the Balabac Strait, which is a really out-of-the-way place in the Philippines, plagued with terrorists and really unusual conditions, a lot of high current. Really a dangerous place to be. It's really far from the mainland, and the water is quite deep where the Flyer was lost. We were a little bit worried that it might be in too deep of water to actually dive, but we found it in about 330 feet of water, which is getting pretty deep. It took a lot of equipment and a lot of training to get to be able to dive that deep, so it was lucky for us that it was in a depth that we could dive. Really tricky dives. We did about 12 minutes on the actual bottom, and then it took 2 hours to do our decompression and make it back up to the surface. So it was definitely tricky diving, and it was just definitely worth it to get down there and bring the story back to the people. One of the most interesting things about the wreck, as we went down into the deep water, all you can see is black, and then this shadow started to emerge, and it really didn't sink in, I don't think, until after I came up out of the water. Just the condition of the wreck. I've never seen a submarine with the periscope and the conning tower still standing. The main structure of the ship is perfectly intact, except for the implosion point where the depth charge, the mine actually sank the ship. There is a large hole in the ballast tanks. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to go inside the wreck, and that has a lot to do with respect for the people who died there. We didn't want to show any remains or anything like that in the film that we made, so we definitely respected the folks who served on the Flyer, and we didn't go inside the ship, but definitely got to see a lot on the outside. And one of the things that really moved me the most was the forward hatch on the submarine was actually in the open position, and a lot of people had really wondered whether the fellows who were trapped inside had tried to come out and open the hatches and escape from the ship as it went down. And that was one of the kind of key pieces of evidence that we were looking for, and just to see that hatch open kind of makes you think about the struggle that the guys went through that day when the Flyer went down. The series that we made, Dive Detectives, was made by Yap Films, and we just go and investigate mysteries around the world underwater, mostly to do with shipwrecks, but we don't want to limit ourselves too much to finding interesting mysteries in the sea, but everything we've done so far has been either submarines or lost ships. And it's just been a great experience to get to travel the world and dive in all these amazing places, and especially the Flyer for me was probably the most important to actually discover something that so many people have looked for so long.
My brother was on the USS Flier.
What's his name?
George Latterbush.
Seen all those
Oh, yeah, when the sub hit Kittery, they all got off and went to my mother's and my mother fed 8 to 10 of them every time they come in. Because he went down with the sub, with a Flier. And I promised my mother she couldn't make it, I'd be here. And I'm here.
Did you enjoy this day?
Yes, I have, very much. I never thought it would be like this. Never thought.